Good afternoon and welcome to the session on open access in power towards enabling Make in India and self-reliance. My name is Sumbul and I represent NASSCOM. Open access was introduced under the Electricity Act 2003 and provides large consumers with a load of 1 megawatt and above the option to purchase electricity from a source of their choice and not necessarily from the local power distribution licensee. The respective state electricity regulatory commissions have enacted enabling regulations for open access and also determine charges such as wheeling, cross subsidy, and additional surcharges that are levied on those procuring power. Open access charges vary substantially across states due to the difference in tariff structures and cost of power distribution. With this, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. Our first speaker would be Mr. Rohit Bajaj. Rohit is spearheading the business development function at Indian Energy Exchange. He has over 23 years of rich experience in energy domain, especially in the power, oil and gas. Prior to IEX, he's worked with the National Energy Trading and Services, serving as the whole-time director where he led the power trading business of the company, overseeing the short-term and medium-term power sales through bilateral and power exchanges. He's worked with a number of organizations such as Reliance and Avanta Group, among others. Our second speaker for today is Nitin Sabiki. He's the Vice President Business Development at the Indian Energy Exchange. He has over 14 years of work experience in power sector and marketing. He is actively involved in strategic activities like promoting open access for industry, and he writes various technical papers and also does new product development, developing optimization models for discoms, tie-ups with international power exchanges and key players in the power markets. Just a small housekeeping announcement before I hand it over to Rohit. For any questions that you may have on this session, you can post it on the Q&A tab and they will be taken up after the session. With this, I hand it over to Rohit to begin.
Thanks, Sambul. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. So thanks for setting the context. Thanks NASSCOM for organizing this and giving us opportunity to present, to interact with the participants. I welcome all the participants here. Good to see in such a great numbers. And in next 1 hour, we are going to talk about one of the major input to our processes, which is electricity. So we will be talking about open access as explained by Sumbul. Where are we? Because this is one concept which is not new in the country. This started somewhere in 2003 when the Electricity Act was introduced. We have come a long way since then. We will just do a quick check. Where are we in terms of open access? We will also be sharing with you some of the information related to various states, because some states are doing very well, some are not doing that well as far as open access provision is concerned. So another important thing that we are going to do today is, let me just also share with you how we have structured this 1 hour. I'll be sharing with you initial thoughts. Then we will move on to the detailed presentation where we will be talking about all the different products that we have today. A lot of additions has happened in the recent past, and these are worth sharing with you. Then we will move on to the finer aspects of open access, where we will be comparing what would be the landed cost in case you are availing that power and what sort of savings can be achieved. So all in all, we have about 40 minutes presentation, and then we have intentionally kept 20 minutes at the later part of the hour for the discussion, where we would be taking all the questions that you probably will raise. Today, sector is witnessing major changes. In fact, technology is changing on a very fast pace, and with the technology, options are also increasing. So in last 5-6 years particularly, we have seen major transformation in terms of capacity addition that we have seen in the country. Traditionally, we were a power deficit country all these years. All the distribution utilities, for that matter, and also all the consumers also were always working towards ensuring energy security. All of us had one thing, one common concern, that we wanted to ensure that we have ample availability for the coming days. So that was the time, some time back in last decade, but over the period, the things have really changed. So in last 5 years, precisely, we have added more than 20,000 megawatt capacity every year. And today we are at a very decent place. So if you see the total capacity that we have today on the right side graph, if Nitin, if you can help me in pointing it out, there is about 370 gigawatt of capacity which is available today. It has increased at a very fast pace in last 5 6 years. As against this capacity, our peak demand is just 183 gigawatt that we have touched last year. So if we compare this vis-a-vis peak demand, we have almost double capacity today, and this is really very reasonable position where we are in. So in this sort of scenario, there is no dearth of capacity. Whenever anybody needs power, there is ample power available in the country, and as per your requirement, you can buy that. Second important thing that we have witnessed is in last 4 5 years is increase in transmission capacity. So about 5 years back, there was congestion in many parts of the country. Many regions were facing deficit on account of not enough availability of transmission corridors. But today that has also changed significantly. In fact, if you ask me, last 5 years, we have added almost 1 lakh megawatt of inter-regional capacity in the country. And today there, in this particular aspect also, we are very reasonably placed. And none of the cases, in fact, 99.9% of the time at exchange, we do not see any congestion, which means there is ample energy available, there is ample transmission available. So now we have come out of that situation where we were dependent on only long-term contracts for meeting our demand. Now we can be dependent on spot market, like for any other commodity, like for any other fuel for that matter, or any other raw material. We do not have long-term arrangement in place. So similarly in electricity also, when we have ample supplies available, we can be dependent on that. If we talk about sector, our deficit has come down from 10% to just 0.7, and this is also last year number after COVID situation where demand has taken further dip. In fact, even this deficit is not there. And another thing is, as I said, energy mix has changed in a very big way. So a lot of renewable capacity addition has happened. And in fact, in last 5 years, renewable capacity addition is to the tune of 20% CAGR. We have been adding in that proportion. And this is preferred option for many of the consumers. Their preferences are also changing. They are now shying away from procuring only conventional power. They want to buy more and more renewable power to be on the carbon neutral side. Can we move on to the next slide, Nitin, please? Yeah. So we, as you may be aware, most of us are aware that we are part of Paris Climate Agreement, which was signed in 2016. And the idea was to create 40% of the total energy in form of RE energy by 2030. And let me share with you, we are way ahead of this target, and we are probably going to overachieve it by a very decent margin, because I was attending one conference a few days back, and there our Honorable Minister, Mr. R.K. Singh, he was saying that by 2030, our target is to have 60% non-fossil based capacity in the country. So this is what we are working for, what we want to achieve. And if we are going to achieve that, then the energy mix is going to change in a very big way, because with 60% of that, overall, in energy terms also, we would be consuming more than 30% purely on renewable basis. As I said, consumer preference is also shifting in a very big way. Some of you may be part of this RE100 climate group. This is initiative by some of the most influential companies in the world today. They want to accelerate energy shift from conventional to renewable. And they are working in that direction. They have taken targets of achieving 100% carbon neutrality or 100% consumption of renewable power in times to come. Somebody has target of 2030, some other have taken target of 2040. But for next 15-20 years, it is going to change in a very, very big way. Today in country, we are consuming only 10% of the total energy in form of renewable. But next 2 to 3 years, this number is going to increase drastically, because all the new capacity addition that is happening in the country is on the renewable side. Why I am sharing with you all this particular aspect is because of this change, market dynamics are also changing in a big way. So today we have launched green power contracts also in the exchange, and in the subsequent slide we would be sharing more details with you. So when we have green contract available, customer has choice now whether you want to buy only the cheapest power or you want to buy green power at the most competitive uh, on the most competitive way. So this is how the market dynamics are also changing, and it is very important for all of us to appreciate that and know that. Yeah, Nitin, next slide, please. So there are various ways of power procurement for all the consumers. So distribution utilities, they also do they also adopt various possible ways which are available today. Their dependence on long-term arrangement is the most. Even today, 88% of the power consumed in the country is routed through long-term PPA. These are all mostly 25 years, but recently some of these PPAs are as low as seven years PPA also, very recently. Not many such PPAs are there. In this, one important aspect is the tariff is charged in two parts. So we have one fixed cost, which is the charges you are paying for booking this capacity. This is also called capacity charge. And then there is a variable component. Whenever you are drawing that power, for every unit that you are drawing, you are liable to pay the charges. So let's say there is a coal-based plant. So you are paying some part in the form of capacity charge, which takes care of their depreciation, interest, salaries, and other fixed charges. And the remaining part, which is variable, is coal cost. And whenever you are drawing power from that particular plant, you have to pay in terms of coal. So it has got two components. This is globally also, this is same. Everywhere where you have long-term PPAs, it is generally in two-part tariff. Then we also have another category where you can sign contract beyond 1 year up to 5 years. And here also the tariff is in two parts because you are reserving capacity, you are booking capacity for next 4 to 5 years. And this is more or less similar to long-term PPA. And the third category, which has become very popular recently, is short-term bilateral contracts. Here you can have one-to-one tie-up, which is called bilateral tie-up. Let's say I am generator, you are consumer. We can have tie-up in place for 1 year, and the tariff here is just one part tariff, which means every unit I am supplying to you, every unit you are consuming, you are taking from me, you are paying on per unit basis. The application can be it can be taken for three months in at one go. It can be applied on daily basis. That possibility is also there, but this is bilateral transactions between buyer and seller. The fourth and the most preferred transaction that has evolved over time is exchange transactions. So this is one place where you can place your bid, where you can buy. Today we have bouquet of products which are available. There are two exchanges in country today. We being leading exchange, and then there is second exchange, which is Power Exchange of India Limited, promoted by National Stock Exchange. They are the second one, and you can buy through any of these exchange and make good your power requirement. You have option of buying intraday power. You have option of buying renewable real-time market. There is another market where we will be sharing more details. And on day-ahead basis, you can buy power, because when you are buying on day-ahead basis, you are very near to your actual consumption pattern. Your forecasting errors are very limited, and when you are buying near to that, there is chances of going wrong is very low, and there is no wastage in that. So this is the most efficient way of buying. And since there is huge participant base, we have more than 6,000 consumers who are participating at our platform. Similarly, there are 200, 300 sellers who are constantly every time selling at our platform. That way price discovered is also very robust. And you choose your price point. You place your bid on the basis of your best price, and then the transaction happens. Nitin, please, next. So as I said, a large part of the transactions, most of these transactions in country today, even today, is under long term. But things have changed. We started exchange in 2008. FY 2009 was the first year of operation. And that time, about 94% of the total transactions were under long term. Today, this number has come down to 88%. And if you see bottom of the table, within short term, exchanges which were minuscule at that point in time has taken a leading role now. So exchanges are doing close to 5%. This year data I'm sharing with you, they are doing close to 5% of the total power consumed in the country. And this has happened in last 12 years. So our volume have been growing at a CAGR of almost 30%, and consumers are finding it most beneficial to source their power through exchanges. There are two values that we provide. One is the competitive price discovery, which is very important aspect because price is the key. This is one of the significant cost. Electricity is one of the significant costs in most of these processes that we do. And if we can reduce our cost, there, there cannot be a better thing than that. And second important thing is flexibility. Exchange provides flexibility for participants to do their procurement in 96 different time block in a day, which means you can procure different quantum for every 15 minutes. You can vary your quantum across the day to 24 into 4, which is 96 time blocks. Yeah, Nitin. So all other segment, which is short term and other things, are going down. Exchanges are getting prominence because of the value that exchange provides. So let me also share with you global perspective, how transactions and how power is traded globally. So if you see this graph on the right hand side on the bottom graph, I'm trying to show here that there are countries like US, UK, Germany, where more than 50%, on an average, about 50% of the power that is consumed in the country is routed through exchange. This number is very small in India because we have started exchange only 10 years back. These countries, they have this exchange facility available for more than 20 years now. These are all matured economies. They have tried various models in the past, and then they realized that this is the most optimum model for procurement of power. And all these countries are surplus countries, which means that their overall demand is much less as compared to the kind of capacity that have. So exchange model is most successful in such scenario where you have surplus supply available, there is less demand, and customer can come to spot market, avail these options. One more important aspect I want to highlight here is all these countries, their renewable component is also very high. Their consumption of renewable energy is also very high. As you can see from the graph, in US, UK, and Germany, all these places, about 30% of the total energy consumed is renewable. So this also gives us idea about one more important aspect. Wherever renewable component is high, exchanges are doing very good. Why? Because exchange is another medium which can be used for the purpose of absorbing renewable in the country. So renewable comes with a lot of variability. And if you have one market in place, the inter-regional market in place, like IEX or like the exchanges that we have in country, this can be used as a buffer. It can help in the integration of renewable energy. Our prices have been doing fairly well. I think I'll skip this. Going forward, we will be sharing much more detail about that. Yeah, Nitin. So here we are. We are one of the leading exchange today. Our market share is about 95%. We on an average trade more than 7,000 megawatt now. And there are huge participant base. In the past, we have done 300 million unit also. There are about 4,000 commercial and industrial establishments, those who are registered with us. All the state utilities, they are also with us. We also trade in renewable energy certificates. Recently, we have introduced green market, real-time market, and exchanges are known for transparency, liquidity, and competition. So that's all that I wanted to share. Now I'll hand over it to Nitin. He will be sharing trading mechanism and other details with you. Over to you, Nitin.
Thanks, Rohit, for the context setting and the background. Thank you very much. And moving on, so before I start with the technical aspect of how it happens and what are the products we offer, there's one important aspect I would like to highlight, that why we are talking about open access and what it means to an industry. We have seen that the power procurement cost contributes to be the major component of the total expense side, is the biggest expense. And the competitive advantage you have, locally among different states, or maybe globally with your counterparts, it depends on how efficiently you have managed this particular component. I think that is where it all started. And there was a wave of reform that every industry wanted to optimize their costs, and we have seen the kind of participation. Second, and the most important thing in light of what has happened in last 6-7 months of this pandemic, it has forced people to rethink and realign their strategy of committing for something on a longer duration. There was a lot of buzz about the renewable contracting. There were a lot of talks about longer duration commitment under bilateral. But I think this pandemic has given us that option and realization that, whether I can commit for a longer period. So, of course, I want to lock in with the price, but given the liquidity in the market, is it now more viable for me to be part of the market where I can actually manage my portfolio, as Rohit mentioned, maybe as close to and 1 hour in advance. So the major product is 1 day in advance, but you have options to you manage your portfolio an hour in advance also, depending on your load profile. So I think that those are the 2 points I wanted to flag. So that in that context, when we go forward, I wanted you all to be aligned with that thought in mind, because then only you'll have the value proposition. All right, so quickly talking about the market segment. So we started in 2008, almost 12.5 years back, this institution was set up. We started operation, and we started with the day-ahead market. So just for the interest of the audience, this presentation will be shared with you. So there would be some slides. I've kept it deliberately, but I won't be spending too much time on that. It is just to give you the flavor of or maybe slide reference or context. You'll find me skipping through a couple of the slides. Staying on this slide, the day-ahead market is a market which was the first product that we started. The name itself is clear. It is delivery for the next day. And the price discovery is double-sided closed auction, the most competitive price discovery mechanism known, which means it's an auction where both buyers and sellers are participating. And it's a closed auction. Nobody knows what other people are quoting. So this will be helpful if when we'll look into the details of this price discovery. We'll talk at length about the day-ahead market price discovery. But just letting you know what other products we have, which participants can use. So you have the day-ahead market, the first one. The second one is intraday, which means for the same day. So today being Friday, I can do a trading of Friday intraday and Saturday day-ahead market. Then there's another product which is day-ahead contingency. It's another contract again for the next day. So today sitting on Friday, I can do trading in 3 contracts. First, Friday intraday, that is today's requirement I can meet. I can bid for day-ahead market tomorrow, which is Saturday. I can also bid for day-ahead contingency market, which is again for tomorrow, Saturday. So these are the 2 closer to delivery products that we offer. And then you have delivery up to 11 days, daily and weekly contracts. There is a regulatory angle to it, why we are only offering 11 days. So I think the resolution is there, so very soon we can expect a longer duration contract also being floated by the exchanges, where you can trade up to a longer horizon, maybe let's say a year or so, monthly, quarterly, half yearly or yearly contract. But at this point of time, the contracts that we offer is for the next week. That's the longest tenure that you can trade, is the next week, coming week. So we also have the renewable domain with us. So we offer renewable energy certificates. It's a certificate market for RPO compliances. So most of you will be governed by your state-specific renewable purchase obligations. So those can be efficiently met through renewable energy certificates. RECs are only exchange-traded contract. There is no other mode of trading RECs. There is a perform, achieve, trade scheme by Bureau of Energy Efficiency, where they are designated consumers given the target to reduce energy consumption. Again, somebody overachieves, somebody underachieves, which is tradable. So my overachievement can be bought by somebody who has underachieved to meet their obligation. So that trading is done by energy saving certificates. Then this year only, in June 2020, we started this real-time market where one can purchase power just 1 hour in advance. So there's an option to trade power just 1 hour in advance. And with a continuous effort, we've been able to introduce a green market where an entity who is buying this power, there's a market which allows you to buy electricity as well as the green attribute. So when you buy this green market, the green contract, you get electricity as well as you meet your RPO by that quantum. So I think these are the products that we have been offering. So these symbols are a representation of what kind of market these are. So whether it is auction, we will see two curves, where two arrows you will find it's a continuous matching. For all for practical purposes, day-ahead market is an auction-based mechanism. We'll talk about it at length. But this is just to give you an idea what exactly at exchange we do. We only discover price? No. There are tons of activities that goes at the back end of the exchange function. There's one is the trading part where you're correcting bid, doing the price discovery. There's a round-the-clock surveillance also, which is the state-of-the-art technology, operating to ensure that all the things are in place, the financial aspect is also taken care. Then you have the clearing part, which is mostly a financial part to it, where you will be doing all the payouts, which means taking money from the buyers, making payments to the sellers. So exchange act as the counterparty. So whenever you're trading at IEX act as the counterparty. You're part of a very big pool, which is highly liquid. There's n number of buyers and sellers. So you're just bidding in the market. Rest, everything is taken care by the exchange. Whether it comes to scheduling your power, you need not to know who the counterparty is. Whether I'm buying from a discom, whether I'm buying from a renewable, whether I'm buying from a generator, you need not to know because exchange is the counterparty. Once scheduled, it is deemed delivered. There is no revision in such schedule. So once traded, it is done and dusted. And then is a delivery which takes care of the physical aspect of it, that whatever has been traded will get dispatched. And all these processes are online. You need not to follow up with exchange for any of these activities. So all the financial part is taken care of automatically. If your power is scheduled, everybody in the system will have the same piece of information. I think this will clarify quickly how a typical day-ahead market looks like. So 10 to 12 is the bidding time in which you can delete, edit, modify n number of times what you want to do. Next 1 hour is the time when we discover the price. We calculate the market clearing price and market clearing volume, where the system has collected all the bids and discovered the auction price and volume. However, we are not the system operator. We are the market operator. So whether this power can flow as per the selected result or the discovered prices and results, that we need to check with the system operator. So we check with the system operator, which is NLDC, about that the corridor or the network constraint, if there is any. And also we check from the banks with respect to the final position of the funds. At 3, if there is a congestion in the network, which is very, very, very remote nowadays, so most of the time we will not find a congestion happening. It was a common phenomena when we started, but as Rohit also mentioned, we have added a lot of capacities in the transmission side, so which has eased out on this congestion. There's virtually no congestion. Every day is a non-congested part. However, there could be a possibility of a maybe couple of days in a year when you'll find congestion, and maybe during those days, some part of the day. So I think most of the time it is one nation and one price. That's how we represent it. So by 3, we are discovering the price, whatever is the final solution. 5:30, it is informed to everybody, and by 6, it is displayed on the respective SLDC's website, RLDC's website. So it is the cycle is complete. You have the same piece of information as your system operator, so there will never be an issue of the reconciliation. I'll spend a couple of minutes on this slide of price discovery, because people often have apprehension. I'm not sure, but again, for the larger interest, I'll take a couple of minutes to explain this. And people often say that while you're bidding in the market, is this because the first thing that comes to your mind is speculation, gaming, getting into the analysis, technical analysis of what could be the price. So the mechanism that we follow is actually not, is insulated from all this thing. As an industrial consumer, you know what your existing power purchase cost is. You know what is your replacement cost, next opportunity cost. So you will be bidding on that basis. You are not worried about whether exchange rate is high or low, because it is a double-sided closed auction, which means even if my bid price is 4 rupees and if the exchange discovered rate is 230, I will pay 230. So for me to discover whether rate would be 230 or 270 or 280 has no relevance. So I should know what my threshold prices are as a consumer. Every consumer will have a different threshold, maybe the nature of the business or the production schedule. It could be anything, you know. Some may have a backup generation, some may not have a backup plans. So but for everyone, there would be a threshold price. That is your bid price. So you need not to worry about what the prices would look like on the exchange market, because if it is more, then your bid will not be selected, which eventually you want. So if my threshold price is 4 rupees and then exchange rate goes to 4.1, my bid will not be selected. However, if the rate is 3.5, my bid will be selected and I will be paying 3.5. So there's no incentive for me to keep looking at the prices and keep changing the bid price. We'll clarify from this example. So 0 to 20 is the price range. This is the range in which a participant can bid, buyer and seller. To draw a curve, you need to have 2 points. So 0 to 20 is that price range. There's a portfolio A who wanted to bid 20 megawatt till 3 rupees. He says 0 rupees, 20 megawatt. Till 3 rupees is willing to buy 20 megawatt. However, if the rate is 3.5, he has reduced the quantum to 7. If the rate is 3.8, he has reduced the quantum to 4. And anything over 3.8, it has said 0. So the threshold price for this particular entity is 3.8 rupees, where he can only buy 4. After that, he is not interested. Similarly, we'll have multiple portfolios, so similar buyer portfolio. These are the buyers who are willing to pay a 20 rupees price also, because they know if they're not getting it, their opportunity cost or the production loss is much more higher. So for them, it may be it makes sense for them to buy even at a higher price also. Of course, there would be some portfolio on the sell side. Similarly, a seller is saying that portfolio E, if it is visible to you guys, it says very clearly at 2.1, I'm not willing to sell anything, 0 megawatt. But at 2.5 and above, is willing to sell. So buyers and sellers are submitting their bid on a regular basis. So just imagine this price discovery that we do is a result of almost 1,000 to 1,500, depending on the day we are talking about, 1,500, 1,000 such bids. And for each time block, we are collecting these bids for these 1,500 time blocks and discovering price. So as a buyer, when you submit a bid for 96 time block, when we are discovering price for the first time block, we are just taking the strip out of the first time block and then we are allowing you to bid. So how it is done? We collect for at each point you collected all the buy quantum available. At 0 rupees, 190 megawatt is available. At 0 rupees, no cell is available. So the best cell is available at 40 megawatt at 2.1. There will be a point where this buy and sell will meet. The quantum will match. That will become our clearing price and the clearing volume. How it happens? Look at this. This is a demand curve, 20 rupees, 8 rupees, 6, 5, 4, 3. This is a sell curve. Now the curve has been intersected. The price is 250 and the volume is 120 megawatt. Now just pay attention to this point. When we say 120 megawatt is the price discovered, what does this mean? It means all the buyers who have quoted 2.5 and more, these buyers, look at the left-hand side of the curve, this part, all the buyers who have quoted 2.5 and above, they are selected and they will pay how much? 2.5, which means this 6 rupees buyer, he quoted 6 rupees, he's selected and he'll pay 2.5. This 2 rupees 50 paisa buyer also, he quoted 2.5, he is also selected and he is also paying 2.5. So what is the advantage of somebody bidding at 6? He also paying 2.5, another 0.5 also paying 2.5. The advantage this 6 rupees buyer has that his threshold is higher than a 2.5 rupees buyer, which means if the rate would have been 2.7, this 250 buyer would not have been selected, but this 6 rupees buyer would be selected and he would have paid 2.7. So your competitive position depends on your threshold prices. Is it a rocket science to discover this price? Absolutely not. It's a very simple price. We'll show you how. So it's a known thing, no known parameters. Seller also, all these sellers, if you look at on the left hand side, which I'm highlighting right now, all these sellers who quoted 2.5 or less, they are selected and they're getting 2.5. So there's a seller at 2 rupees, he's selected, and he's getting 2.5 because the market rate is 2.5. So what people often do, initially there were some mistakes done by the people, industry, that they thought, okay, fine, this 6 rupees generator, if he decides tomorrow that no, why should I bid at 6 rupees? If the rate was 250, so next day if he bids at 250 and the rate comes out to 260, his bid is not getting selected. Although 260 would have still have been a better price for him. So that's the whole point I wanted to highlight with this slide, that there's no incentive for you to go for market speculation, what the prices would be, because your threshold is fixed. You know it in advance. Keep bidding at that price. Depending on the exchange prices, some days you will be saving X amount, some day you would put less, but you will never make loss out of this equation. This is a typical curve it looks like. And so whatever is getting traded at the exchange, because it is anonymous, there has to be a standard delivery point. So the delivery point is the regional periphery. So for example, I like to explain in with this. So let's say there's a transaction, buyer, a buyer is connected in Haryana region at a Discom network. So this is a delivery point, NR periphery, which means from NR periphery till the delivery point, your draw point, whatever losses charges are there, they're not anonymous, they are known to you. Whatever losses charges are there, you're supposed to bear those losses charges, and accordingly you'll bid. So for example, if you need 5 rupees power at your end, you'll do a reverse calculation and bid for 3.5 rupees, provided 1.5 is the charges. Seller also does the same exercise depending on the point. So if I can provide 100 at my injection point, I cannot bid 100 at the regional periphery. My quantum would be less. If, for example, there's a 5% loss, I'll be bidding 95 at my regional periphery, but I cannot bid 100 because then I cannot generate that much. So again, known things, but just wanted to apprise you of the fact. Now, maybe I'll just take 5 more minutes to conclude, and this is the most important part. What exactly am I supposed to pay if I'm buying power from the exchanges? So you look at the exchange volumes, you look at the exchange prices, but that is not the price which you end up paying. That is the exchange price at the regional periphery, at the NR periphery for Haryana consumer. So there are different losses and charges. POC charge. So there are 3 kinds of networks: regional, state, Discom. So these charges are POC, STU, and wheeling charges. You have to pay for the network charges, which is getting reflected here. POC charge is for the regional network. STU and the transmission charges are for the state network. Wheeling charges are for the Discom network, depending on my connectivity. If I'm connected to region level, then I'm only paying this. But if I'm connected to state level, then I'll pay these 2. If I'm connected to Discom level, then I have to pay all these 3. But are these charges known to me? Yes, they are known to me. Then there are certain open access charges like cross subsidy surcharge. These are regulatory charges, additional surcharges, and IEX transaction fees. So all this put together, you need to add to the exchange prices and then come out with a price. What is the landed cost to you? We'll see in the subsequent slide. Similarly, the losses are applicable. 3 kinds of losses: POC, regional, state, and the Discom. Again, depending on the connectivity, the losses are decided which will be applicable on you. Now, this is just an example to give you an idea what it means. So let's take an example of a consumer in Telangana. We'll look at 33 kV. So this is 1 megawatt for 24 hours, and the exchange rate was 250. So we need to understand what this 250 means. There are certain losses in the system. You add those losses, it becomes 270. Then there are charges, the state charges, the POC charges, the Discom charges, NLDC, system operator, he is also charging something. Exchange is also charging something. There's an intermediary who is working on your behalf, trader, or a broker, he's charging something. There's a cross subsidy, additional surcharge. All those things added together is 533. The discount tariff is 615. We are not taking into consideration the fixed charges. We are just taking into consideration the energy charge. So there are two components of your electricity supply, fixed and variable cost, the energy charge. So energy charge is we are comparing, and there's a per unit saving of 82 paisa. Now, what does this mean? This means that if there's a 82 paisa saving, it means this entity can buy up till the point of 328. So the bidding rate should be 328 for this entity, because at 328, the saving would be zero. Anything more than 328, the volume will not be selected. Anything less than 328, the volume will be selected and the saving will be the difference. Like in this case, it is 82 paisa. Similar calculation for Gujarat. Again, every state will have a different tariff, different open access charges structure, law structure. We'll be happy to share this. This is updated on IEX website. Under the resource section, you can always go through and have a look at the landed cost calculator. Just select your state, enter your basic details, and the system will tell you what could be those charges. Those are updated to the best of the information available to us. Now, this is again because we understand the representation of the audience would be from across the country. This is what it looks like. So the solid bar, the blue ones are the break-even rates. So you'll figure out where exactly, like UP has a highest break-even rate or a bid rate of 493. So that means if the exchange rates are to the tune of 493, there's a viability in case of UP. The gray ones are the open access charges. You'll find few states with very high open access charges, like some Delhi in some part of the year is very high. You'll find states like Punjab really high, almost 4 rupees of open access charges. And the break-even rate gets on to 2 rupees in this case. But every state, there's a potential because the exchange prices, which Rohit very rightly mentioned about the capacity it is getting added, it reflects into the prices. I'll quickly show you another couple of minutes. I think, yes, I'm just on my watch. So this segment is, we have got more than, huge amount of industrial participation across the country, across this segment. So you name any industry type, if you will find they are already part of exchange transactions. So this has been the volume trend. It's shown a growing trend. Open access consumer have also increased over a period of time. You'll see this has been the increasing trend in terms of number of consumers which are getting added. The rates on the exchange has been lower than the bilateral market prices throughout. You'll figure out that through this thing. This is the most important part. As an industry, if I go to exchange, am I making the right call? Yes. Just look at the sell side. The light blue are the sell bids. Sell bid and the dark blue are the buy bid. Sell bid is on an average 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 times of the buy bid. What does that mean? It has two very strong messages. First, there's enough liquidity on the sell side. Second, there's a competition on the sell side, which means the prices would be more and more competitive. It's a basic economics. More sell, less demand, the prices would be on a competitive. And this is what it is getting showed also, the kind of prices which are prevailing. So over a period of time, you have seen the prices actually showing a negative trend. It's showing going down. How you can trade at exchange? Just quickly, before I just wind up this section, how you can trade? You can trade by becoming a member of the exchange, depending on the size, or you can trade through our existing members, which are they'll act as a broker for you. They'll bid on your behalf and they'll charge a margin for that. So depending on the size of the industry, so for example, if you're 40, 50 megawatt kind of an industry, yes, it makes sense to take direct membership. Otherwise, for a small industry, we have seen the traction is through one of these traders or professional members who are acting on your behalf and registering you as a client. The process is very simple. You can choose your member. You need to get the metering requirement. So most of the cases, it's already in place. SLDC clearance is the one sacrosanct document which we require, which means that there's a system operator who is giving you the clearance to go and participate in the market. and he's certifying how much maximum you can draw. So based on that number only, you'll be able to trade on the exchange. Once it is done, registration on the exchange does not take much time, 2 days. You give us today the form, tomorrow you're good to trade in the market. So all this registration process is also very seamless. In our case, there are a lot of industries participating. We'll be more than happy to connect with you in person. You can all feel free to reach out to us for details, because every state is different. So we have our regional presence. We have our offices in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai. In South, we have our office in Kolkata. In East, we have our office in Gujarat, Ahmedabad, and Mumbai for the Western region. And North, we're operating out of Delhi. So that's pretty much about it. We are available on social media and other places also. I think now we can, that's it from my side. I think now Rohit and I myself can take questions, concerns of the participants. I'll stop sharing my screen. Yep.
Within we can read out Q&A.
Yeah,
and then...
do that, so, yeah. So, all right, so now can we... So there's a question from Barun Rai. His question is with respect to renewables. His question is, can we set up a wind solar plant on short-term open access basis? If yes, then what percentage of generation is subject to risk of not getting dispatch curtailment? Rohit, you want to take that? Shall I answer?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So Barun, again, relevant question. So there is a lot of interest among the renewable players to because now there's a market available. So as a renewable generator, if you even set up a capacity for a short-term basis, you will have an option to first sell this power in a bundle mechanism where you, in the green time market, the one I showed you. If you're not able to sell in that market, you will have to sell your electricity only for contract, which are day-ahead market, day-ahead contingency, intraday, real-time market. So you'll have 4-5 option to sell off your generation, which is very reasonable. So from the market acceptance point of view, there should not be a problem. First, curtailment. It's not, as I mentioned, it's not happening a lot. It's a very remote thing which is happening. And what happens with renewable is, renewable are set up, for example, where do you see curtailment? It happens sometime in north, sometime in south, and that is where the renewable is getting added. So what it means, if you're adding renewable in south and selling, you're actually releasing the congestion. It's a reverse flow. So that should not be a problem. All right, so Varun, I hope I answer your question. So next question is from Ganesh Nagarsekar. His question is, if we see the growth in penetration of the short-term market, it has been slow over the last decade, despite the deep under-penetration. How much do you see the growing over the next decade? Is the low penetration driven by the reluctance from the suppliers of power who would prefer PPA? If yes, what is the IEX value proposition for the supplier? It's a very, very comprehensive question. So Rohit, I will just request maybe if you can in a short, you can answer the question is more concerned about the size of the short-term market, which has been floating around. I think it's taken a reference from your slide, has grown from 6 to 10%. I think that's what.
Yeah, so you are right in pointing out that overall short-term market is not growing at a pace what we were expecting it to grow. But within the short-term market, there are a couple of things which has happened. In fact, if you look at the precise figures, bilateral has been going down. So it has absolutely at the same place. Exchanges have been growing at a CAGR of 14-15% in last 5 years. Last year was flat year for the reason known to us. Overall demand growth was not there last year. This is precisely the reason. And this year, 6-month data is available, and so far we have been growing at a rate of almost 14-15%. So I won't say, you are right in saying short term is not growing, but exchange has got decent portion of overall demand increase that has happened in the past. Now your second part of the question was sellers preferring long-term PPAs. Yes, so sellers will always prefer long-term PPA they want to get into some sort of contract for longer term where their cash flows are intact, they have visibility of their returns, because in the long term PPA, when you quote your fixed charge, you also include certain return on equity apart from recovering all your expenses, which are depreciation, interest, and all other manpower and other expenses. You also try to recover your return on equity. So yes, all the sellers, they have preference for long-term PPAs. But the point here is very recently, whatever prices are discovered in under long-term PPA, those prices are on the lower side. There is a lot of competition amongst the generators because there is a lot of untied capacity. Today in country, we have more than 20-25 gigawatt of capacity available where there are no PPAs in place. And these are the generating stations who place bid at our platform. They also place their bids in the bilateral market, and they are the ones who are trying to sell or trying to dispatch this capacity through all ways and means. Their preference is right, but buyers are not interested in signing long-term PPA. I can quote a couple of examples with you. Last year, in fact, in the month of January, February, ministry came out with a scheme, which is a pilot scheme where medium-term auction was conducted, and the price discovered was 3 rupees 26 paisa. It's almost 8-9 months now. None of the distribution company has taken that power. So not even a single PPA has been signed. So that way, buyer's preference is changing, and in the surplus market, buyer is the king. It's a buyer's market now. So going forward, market will behave as per the buyer's requirement, and we really don't see many PPAs happening. As far as short-term market is concerned, yes, bilateral is going down, exchanges are increasing because it is the most preferred option for buyers. Hope I have answered your question.
Thanks, Rohit. I think it was quite a detailed answer to the question. And so I have another question from Advait Madhuvan. He is asking that, will this program help in One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative by the government? To some extent, yes, Advait, because we're already at a very advanced stage of starting the cross-border trading, where you will be connecting with the neighboring nations, South Asian. However, if there's a connectivity which there are talks going around with this One Sun, One World, One Grid, it poses a very right opportunity. So from the market side, for us to integrate multiple regions won't take time because the technology remains the same. So I think in terms of readiness, we are already there. So it's just the way the network keeps on augmenting the integration as soon as the networks are integrated, the markets also gets integrated. All right. So there's one question from Santosh Sandeep. Rohit, you can answer that. He's asking, dear sir, can we expect market to be open in Telangana? If yes, when can industries can expect it?
So it's already open in Telangana. There we are getting very good participation from Telangana. There are close to 100, over 100, I would say, participants already registered with us. They are availing their buying power as per their requirement. There is one issue in Telangana which we are facing for little over 1 year now. There is some resistance by SLDC and distribution company in issuance of new NOC. I think this is one problem that we have been facing, but there is some positive sign. First NOC is in the process, is already issued or it is in the process of issuance. There are many more potential buyers. They are trying to get NOC. As such, market is open. There is no issue, and NOC thing is also being sorted out. One more thing I add here, which I forgot I wanted to mention in the opening address itself. Government is very keen. If you see all the latest developments, being it related to Electricity Act amendment, which government has taken up very recently, or if it is about forming policies or the recent regulations that they have released, their intent is very clear. They want to promote open access. They want to reduce cross subsidies which are there. And in fact, I will quote again, once again the same conference which I attended 2 days back. Minister on record said it very clearly that today industries are suffering on account of very heavy subsidies given by state government. So subsidy is not a problem. State government is free to give subsidy to the farmers, to the domestic consumer, wherever they want. They should give. There is no issue in that. Only thing is cross subsidy should be limited. So when you give cross subsidy, you are giving benefit to one set of consumer, and then you are imposing additional charges on the other set of consumer, which is normally C and I, commercial and industrial consumer. And that we have seen happening in the past for so many years. And result is tariff is very high for bulk consumers, which are industries. Normally, globally, if you see, trend is reverse. If you buy more, or for that matter, in any wholesale market, if your quantum buy is more, you have to pay less price. But in India, we pay more for buying more. So I think this is an anomaly, and government is keen to correct it. And all the markets are being opened up. There are some more states like West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, where the open access was not allowed earlier. There also there are certain positive development. And if you are from any of these states, we request you to start applying for NOC, and we will surely support you in that, in getting the all the permissions.
Thanks, Rohit. So quickly, the next question is Bharat Parekh. He wants to ask, okay. So Bharat, your question is, how much is RE curtailment currently, which comes to IEX if draft power rules for must-run gets implemented? Will REIPP get 75% of the PPA rate, including IEX realization? So again, it's still a draft, Bharat. But the idea is there have been participation in the electricity market from the renewable generators who have some dispute with respect to their PPAs. They have been selling in the market, but that is as an interim arrangement in past. But again, this draft which talks about the must-run status, it helps putting it into a structure. We don't have the number because it has not yet been implemented. So you just can't predict what kind of numbers would be there. It depends on how much the states are willing to offtake. It's just that it will give comfort to both the state and the generator, because the generator knows that he can now get the dispatch, and the state utility will be having the comfort that they need not to dispatch this power and only pay the compensation amount, which is the differential amount. Hope that answers your question. Sagar also has a similar question on renewables. So Sagar, his question is, do we need to invest in renewable energy to participate in exchange or open access? Absolutely not. You need not to invest separately. When you can choose to participate in the exchange market as a consumer, there would be some seller who would be selling in the market. It can be renewables. In green market, it could be a conventional generator or a discom. It could be anyone. When you're buying from the market, in day-ahead market, typically it's an anonymous transaction. You're coming, you're putting your bid, and the trades are getting through. All right, so moving on. So Baran, I think there are a couple of questions with respect to Telangana. There are further more questions, but anyways, this presentation, our contact details will be shared with you. We have our regional office in Hyderabad. Aditya Iranki is our representative who looks after that state. We'll be more than happy to connect you with to take it forward. Any specific queries? Kunal Bhatia has a question. How will market coupling impact the exchanges? All right, different topic, but Rohit, you want to take that? His question is, will it be possible for the regulator and government to introduce market coupling without taking into modalities and without having this market-based economic dispatch? Slightly off the tangent with respect to discussion, maybe in short, if you want to answer this.
Yeah, so this concept came in 2017 when concept of market-based economic dispatch was introduced. So I think you have referred to that only, embed. There they said if there are multiple exchanges and if entire generation is to be routed through exchange, the most efficient way of doing is you should have one marketplace. So precisely that was the argument there. And they suggested various things. They suggested system operator doing, one of the option was system operator acting as a coupling operator, and second option was exchanges doing it on rotation basis. So yes, we do believe that when the market-based economic dispatch will be introduced, probably we will have something of that sort, but it is little far away. It will not happen so easily because you have to get states on board and there is a lot of work to be done. I really don't know what exactly you are trying to ask, but yes, that coupling operator thing is being considered, and it will happen with market-based economic dispatch, which is little far away. Yeah.
All right. So maybe another question is, Dilip wanted to ask where professional and a trader member information. So we'll be happy to share the details. Reach out to us for a specific state. We'll be happy to help you how to take it forward. There's an participant who has not shared the name. So are there any analytics or such services which they are provided by IEX to its customer to improve their power procurement decisions? If so, are these analytics service chargeable? So, so again, while participating in the exchange, as I mentioned, it's a very simple process. You know what your charges, losses are. So there are some information which is there, but I wouldn't, some amount of analytics, but again, it's helps you in decision making. But if you're looking for a tool, maybe going forward, we also want to introduce a more detailed analytics version where the participant will get another level of information which helps them managing their power portfolio in a better manner. So I think that would be long and short of your question. And there's somebody else also wanted to understand which all industries are buying from exchange. So there are almost 4,000 plus industries already registered from across the sector. We have the commercial establishment like hotels, hospitals, shopping malls, the data warehouse, data centers. You go to industry, metal, textile, you name, paper, plastic. So there I think each and every industry, which we could possibly think of, and who are energy intensive. So I'm not taking into consideration the handicraft because they're not energy intensive. But anybody close to 1 megawatt, 1,000 kilowatt is a potential, and in most of the states you'll find some way or the other these industries are already participating. So I hope I have not missed out any questions. Yes, it looks like. Yep. But I think that's it from the question side. Sumbul, you want to add in now?
Sure. Thank you so much, Nitin and Rohit. I think very enlightening session and very engaging as well. We will make sure that all these questions are. And to our attendees, we'd request if you have any further questions, you can to us north@nascom.in, and we will be happy to make the connects for you. So thank you so much for joining in today, and we hope that you've learned, and I'm sure that this session has been useful for you. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Rohit, and thanks, Nitin.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks.